Good evening, everybody. Today is March 25th, 2019, and I am here with Yasica Bailey as my special guest for our episode number 17 of Manifesting with Meg, and we're happy to have you all join us to learn all about walking in wisdom, which, you know, interestingly enough, wisdom is something that is very difficult to come by, kind of challenging at its best, but once we get it and we embrace it and we walk with it, life becomes a little easier. So, you know, I do want to welcome Yashica to our beautiful Manifesting with Meg hour. I'm certainly happy to have you, and certainly our engagement, I guess you could say, came about as a beautiful synchronicity too, because she contacted me to interview me on coaching, and we just hit it off so well. I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to come in and discuss wisdom with me, and she said yes. So we're very grateful to have you here tonight, joining us on this beautiful, beautiful spring evening in Miami. As always, before I introduce you, I want you to I want you to set an intention for the evening, and then also pick a number, because as you all know who've been a part of this for many years, for enough time so that we all are engaged in the best, this book follows Manifesting with Meg. And Manifesting with Meg goes month by month as two different chapters that involve, starting with January, Carpe Diem, February is Love, and then we have March, which is Profound Wisdom. So we get Profound Wisdom today, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So you got your number? You got everything?
Okay.
Take a deep breath, maybe.
3.
Oh, 3. Okay, so hold on to it, okay? So I would like to introduce you to Yashica. She actually was born in Hopi Sound, Florida, so she is a native Floridian.
Yes, I am.
And at the tender age of 4, she moved to West Palm Beach. So all of you West Palm Beachers out there looking on tonight, she's one of you. She's one of yours. But she came with her mother and her older brother, and she was raised by a single mother, which is in and of itself an amazing feat, because we all know that single mothers out there, they have a really challenging time keeping their kids that's going the straight line and narrow. And this one, she just took her education and ran with it, because I would say you are a kindred heart. You are another career desirous of education, and in fact right now what she is doing is getting her second master's, in fact. Correct. So in marriage and family therapy. And that is actually how we got to connect with each other, because she was engaging me in an interview around life coaching, and that's when we started to have the conversation, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have you on this show. Because interestingly enough, she also has a 10-year career. She just got honorable reward with the Palm Beach Sherrif's office, which, you know, working for any a law enforcement, branch or any kind of distinguished services is a commitment, and also certainly a great skill and dedication to public service, which, is a girl after my own heart, as I was in public service for a significant amount of time as well. So she obtained her BS and her first master's from DeVry and Keller Graduate School, and now she's going to Nova. So hello to all of you Nova colleagues of hers out there who may be watching, and also others at the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. And anybody who is on board to hear a little bit about this second year graduate students walk in wisdom, which, I have to tell you, one of my favorite things about her that, certainly caught my eye is this whole Pay It Forward initiative that she focuses on inmate families, that when they come visit to the visitation center where she works, they have a lot of financial need, especially during the holidays, during Thanksgiving, Christmas. They actually provide gift cards to the different families, which is amazing, to offer them a little bit of insight into, the magic of Christmas as well. So I want to say that is in fact one of those amazing things that, as a person and a humanitarian also with the law enforcement background, that, is just something that's beautiful, to pay it forward, to see these families also going through what they're going through, while their family members are going through the background, with law enforcement. So today, what is this? The month of March, I said Profound Wisdom. We're here tonight to talk about unconditional love as we grow more and more comfortable in our own skin, and growing in self-understanding through the wisdom of our life experiences. And we all have life experiences, some really harder than others. Some we don't compare to other people's life experiences. We all walk our own journey, which I think is quite amazing. So now I get to turn to you and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've arrived at this place in your life where you're actually experiencing a resurgence of curiosity, I always say, as you continue discovering more wisdom with your second master's.
Well, when I completed my first master's, I took a break, and at the time my daughter was 14, and she was in middle school and having some issues, and she wanted to see a therapist. So I had a recommendation, and we went to, with the recommendation, I went to see the therapist. Well, the therapist that we saw was not a therapist that she could relate to. And at that point, I started searching for someone that I thought that she would be able to speak with and she would be able to relate to. And in Palm Beach County, it was very hard for her pediatrician to come about, between the pediatrician and myself, to come through and actually find someone that she would be able to connect to.
How old was your daughter then when
14.
this happened? 14, okay.
So it took about 6 to 8 months before we could actually find someone. We found a great therapist for her. And at that point I've always loved psychology. When I took those courses, I always loved them, always scored well, always just loved the material that was offered. And at that point I started thinking, in my community, it's sort of like therapy is a taboo. We don't talk about it. We don't really go to therapists. And I think that narrative is changing, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be a part of that because my daughter needed someone to speak to and to talk to. And the first thing that the first therapist wanted to do was medicate her. And I was not that parent that was actually welcoming that. Not at all. She needed someone to speak with. She didn't need to be medicated. So from that, I started doing my research, and I realized that was something that was lacking in our community. And once I spoke with the therapist that I did select for her, she welcomed the idea of me going that route. And I loved the idea of going that route. So I started researching, and I started doing, and Nova offered not only marriage, because I've been married 21 years. So
amen, sister, right? Oh my God. So you should get a badge for that, right?
So 21 years of marriage, that on its own is a whole nother segment. But 21 years of marriage. And I said, you know what? Why not combine marriage and family? Because it starts at the family level. Our kids need that type of, that covering. So it starts at that level. So once I started there, it was, okay, let me see what, where we're going and what it takes to actually get into Nova. Offered the program that I wanted. I've always wanted to go to Nova.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I started doing my research, and I applied, and I said, on my birthday, I think it was my, whatever, I'm not going to say the number, but on my birthday, I said, you know what, my birthday gift to myself this year is for me to apply to Nova.
Awesome.
And I did that. And I could tell you probably by maybe 3-4 months it took, I was actually accepted into the program. And I started fall.
Oh, wow. So this past fall?
No, I started fall of 2017.
Okay, so you're almost done.
I'm almost done. Yes.
Wow, May is going to be your graduation date then.
Not this May. Probably December of this year.
Okay.
Yes, December of this year. Yeah, because I work full time, so I don't take the full load that they would want you in that program. So I pace myself so that I could succeed.
Well, to enjoy it too, because I think even when you go back to school at this later part of life, I won't out us in the age department, but when you go back, it's because you want to, right?
Exactly.
You really want to learn, and I think there's a different, excitement about the enjoyment of learning rather than the have to you get to. So congratulations on doing that, because a lot of people get scared that they're not going to be able to, do a good job, especially when you got the genius that hit you, that there's a need for this in the community. It's something that really resonated with you. That's what it sounded to me like. So that's amazing. I think, I really appreciate your life philosophy in that we had the opportunity to get a lot aground with regard to that. But even with today's quote, I'm going to say it's from The Magical Guide to Bliss, my book, it's really quite beautiful in that it's a Rumi quote. It's one of my favorites, and I wanted to ask you about this as well because it says, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. So for you in this like crazy perfect world we live in right now, right?
Yeah.
As we start this brand new week that'll culminate in the last, days of March in this month of wisdom.
Yes.
What does that actually mean for you?
Well, you know what? Because the latter part of our lives, we start to recognize the wisdom that we had already.
Right.
So we've gained and we've learned lessons. Those lessons turn into the wisdom if we make them applicable to our lives. So from that quote, that's what I'm getting out of it. Because for today, the learning, and I want to make sure I get the quote right.
There you go.
Okay. So today I'm wise, and so I'm changing myself. Absolutely. With wisdom comes the recognition of acknowledgement that there are some things, I have some flaws and some things that I want to change.
Yeah.
So me having the wisdom to recognize it and then being able to change it is what actually allows you to become that person. And you take it step by step. Nothing happens overnight, but the first thing is to acknowledge it. And from the acknowledgement comes the baby steps to changing it.
Yeah. I wanted to add to that because I think it's very interesting when you're talking about baby steps, and it's actually very empowering because when you try to change the world, it's very overwhelming, right? The world is quite a big place, and I think the best way that you can actually have some kind of impact on the world is by looking at the mirror and making a determination as to the things that you can bring to the table that will make your world, like your corner of the world, a very much more impactful place for you, because it's really like what you did with your daughter. You're like, well, your daughter needs some help, so you went and actually reached out for it. Yes. And then now look what you're doing. Now you're actually getting a degree that's going to help a lot more people because you were impacted by the whole idea of helping your own daughter.
And from that, I'm learning that even within my family dynamics, not just my immediate family, but extension of my family. From that, I'm learning that we need it.
Yeah.
We need that. And with the wisdom, one of my favorite songs by Michael Jackson is "Man in the Mirror."
Oh yeah, I like the song. That's a good one.
Love the song.
I still like his music. I don't care what anyone says.
Yes.
I can separate the two. I can separate the two.
So "Man in the Mirror," it actually, to me, it resonates with me because it's telling me, starting with me. I'm starting with my flaws. I'm starting with those insecurities that I have. And we all have them. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
We all have them.
We all have them. There's no one on this earth that is perfect. Yeah. We all have them. So begin with that. Yeah. And from that, I think you'll see a change. Even if you start with yourself and you start to see a change in your small circle. I've noticed that throughout the years, even in my workplace. You start with you, and you start to see it reflective of other people, which is one of the greatest gifts because you see that you had an impact in someone's life.
I'm going to speak to that too because, you do work with the Palm Beach Sheriff's office, and a lot of people aren't coming in there because they want to come see you. No. It's more like they get to have to, right?
Correct.
It's more that. So, they're not the best versions of themselves, right? They actually are there, and how have you seen your role in that instance where, I always hear people wanting to strive to do different things and actually be different people and whatever. But at the same time, they're not willing to... Yeah, Jessica. Jessica's amazing. You'll have to meet her one day. She's amazing. But, even there, or, in that vein, how do you add to the helping or rehabilitation and at the same time without judgment?
Well, honestly, I feel as though each person that comes in is not reflective of what the inmate does.
Okay.
So that visitor, you cannot connect the visitor to what the inmate. You may have an inmate that may be a sexual offender. I can't treat the visitor any different because of that inmate's crime. And honestly, I could tell you 75% of the inmates, I don't really know their charges.
Oh, you don't?
I try not to.
Oh,
unless it's something that a red flag is raised and it's something that we have to know. I try not to know because I don't want a bias or judgment to come about with their families that's coming in. Not only the families, but even if I come across that inmate, I don't want that judgment to come across in that way.
Wow.
I honestly feel like we all have broken the law at some point, and the only difference...
Are you trying to out us on Facebook Live? This
But I'm just saying, the only difference is they got caught and we didn't. You know, it can be something as small as a running the traffic light. You know, I'm just saying.
No.
You know,
I'm laughing because I'm saying that a lot of us who are my generation are very happy that Facebook was not around when we were growing up,
because it tells so much.
I was like, oh my God, you live your life on camera, literally, right?
Some people don't know what to put on Facebook and what not to
that's
put.
True. That's true. Oh yeah.
Because of that, you know, with the inmates and their families, I really try to not know what those charges are, because at the end of the day, when my head hits the pillow, I have to be accountable for the way I've treated everyone. I don't care who it is. I have to be accountable for that. And that's my strong belief.
Well, I think even when you're talking about wisdom, I mean, I'm sure when we were younger, maybe we didn't feel that way. But as we've gained more knowledge and over time, and then you come to the determination that, you know, basically we all have, you know, our own cross to bear, and some bigger than others, right? But at the same time, you know, what that non-judgmental kind of approach to life, you know, could be the thing that they need for the healing to begin, the rehabilitation to begin. I don't know if that's something that, you know, resonates with you.
It does. You know, like you stated, when we were younger, we didn't think on those levels. And that's part of the quote that you stated today. When you get out, when you're 18 and your feet hits the ground from graduation, you want to change the world.
Which is a good thing.
It is.
It's the energy. You have the energy to do that, right?
You have the energy to do it, but in what sense and to what far extent are you willing to go? So as we age, we get the wisdom, and then we realize that, okay, well, changing maybe begins with me. Yeah. So even with the with the inmates and the families, you know, we try our very best to make those changes, or just being there sometimes is enough. Yeah. Just being present is sometimes enough.
Have some water. Have some water. Have some water. Don't choke on the show. Well, you know, you know, when I'm in a bad place, and let's just say that maybe today might be a great example, you know, in my own world, and it feels bad and it feels very difficult, and, you know, the insight today is you have to find the silver lining in what you're going through. So, you know, I was going to ask you, how do you do that in your life when things don't necessarily go right for you? the deep sigh, right? The deep sigh of
you know what? The silver lining is one way of putting it, and I try to find a lesson in everything. You know, we go through, everyone goes through, and sometimes some of us go through a little bit harder than others. But I really try to find what was the lesson that was in that I needed to learn. So sorry.
It's okay. You're welcome to have some more water. Please. Literally. Maybe the silver lining is that you need to have some more water. So we'll toast to each other. Cheers, my friend. There you go. Asti.
So I needed, you know, I find a lesson in whatever it is that I'm dealing with, because I honestly believe that God is trying to show me something in it.
And then you have the conversations in your car, right? I love that. One of the things that she said to me when she came in tonight was that she was having a conversation on the way over with her source, her strength, her God. And an interesting thing I find is that I asked her, I said, what was the conversation about, right? and she said something very profound to me. It was peace. She wanted to be at peace with whatever happened tonight, which is beautiful. It's beautiful, because I think that's what everyone is striving for, is a sense of peace. And I mean, for all of you out there, you know that the message for me at the end of the Camino was, you know, may peace prevail on earth. So it's always this idea of peace. So it wasn't really shocking, but it was exciting that you had said that peace was the intention you wanted to bring. So you know, when we set out ahead, and so April is for me on the Magical Guide is the Transforming Dreams into Reality month. So it's kind of nice beforehand when we sit in March and we try to, you know, ascertain or grab onto that profound wisdom, so that we can use that when we're actually jumping into April, where it's Transforming Dreams into Reality, which is next month, not even 7 days away. It's right here, The year is swiftly going in front of us.
Swiftly.
So if I were to ask you for inspiration, because, you know, I love to gain the insights of inspiration other people have for me, what would you offer to everyone who's listening today as to how they can gain more wisdom from their life experiences, you know, based upon your own experience in life?
Well, and you and I spoke about this particular subject before, but about not having any regrets. I feel like everything that we've gone through in life, it could be a bad marriage, relationship, it could be whatever, a demotion or a termination of some sort. I truly believe that if we not regret those moments,
that's a beautiful thing, right?
And I know, not regret those moments and find the good in it, because it can be good, and you can find something good in almost anything. You know, and I know even I'm not even going to include death in that, because who wants to go through that? But you can find a good out of whatever it is that you're dealing with. You know, like I said, it could be a termination of a job. Well, that job terminated, which pushed you to go look for another job, and that job became the best job that you've ever had. Or that job that you were terminated from could have pushed you into applying here, and you met the guy and the man of your life, or the woman of your life. So you go back and you look at that relationship or that marriage failed, but now I'm in this marriage here, and it is like, this is a godsend to me. This man is a godsend to me. So I tend to look at things in that order. You know, if you go up for a job and you don't get that job, you have to look at, not that I wasn't good enough for that job, but more of, you know what? He has something better for me, or something better for me out there. Because had I taken that job, it would not allow me to go and apply for whatever this job is. And that actually happened to me, because prior to me working here, working where I am now, I worked for a company, a big company, for 4 months. And I left one big company to go to another big company, and I worked there for 4 months. Within that 4 months, I was suspended.
Oh, really? Oh my God! There's a party in that 4 months.
Never ever have I ever been suspended, but I was suspended and then eventually terminated.
Wow.
Well, during that time of those 4 months of me being there, I kept getting these emails for this job, and I could never apply.
While you were there?
While I was there.
Oh, wow.
And I could never apply because I was always at this job, and they had me on these shifts that did not allow me to have a life. So,
oh my God.
When they suspended me, I went out, and those same emails, I went and I was able to take tests and apply for the jobs.
Oh, wow.
Then when they terminated me, I was open. It was really open and available.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's like divine timing.
Yes.
Meanwhile, some people would look at that as being like the end of their world. Meanwhile, all these doors are opening in another area that you can walk through.
It took time. I can tell you, it took time for that job to come through, but I held on because I knew it was a purpose for that to happen in the timing that it did.
Yeah.
And it happened for me. So when I look back on that, which was years ago, when I look back on that, I know for sure that I was purposed to be where I am.
I have to tell you, it's so amazing that you just said that. First of all, Camila, who is in going to Australia, she's on tonight, so I'm going to say hello to her, and Lisa as well. Hello, Melissa. Hello,
Melissa.
Welcome to Manifesting with Meg.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I do want to touch on that because it's very interesting, but you know, it's funny because everybody, like we were talking about this before, everybody sees you and they intimate whatever they want onto your life, that everything is just hunky-dory and it's flowing smoothly, and you have all the wisdom in the world, and you jumped out of your job and everything falls into place, and it's just dreamy, and you're just love. And, I do talk about love, so I like to have that living on the mountain of my aspirational life. But when you're talking about the doors opening in one direction and closing in others, even for myself, having left my own job, and I speak about this quite a bit, jumping out into the world, and doing my thing. I mean, like, it's kind of hard sometimes to embrace the uncertainty of when will that next paycheck come, or when will you hit it big and then start running with that. And I think it's important to be vulnerable with your story in those instances, because a lot of people who may be thinking that it's perfect and unfolding, at the same time, they don't see the struggle behind the closed doors, and a lot of people, especially on Facebook, don't share that picture. It's always like, and that I think that gets us all into trouble, I think, because ultimately we're all comparing our insides to other people's outsides as what we perceive that to be, and not what the reality is, because nobody really truly talks to that. I don't know if you've had that experience in the unfolding of your story and your journey.
Well, you know what, I believe in being transparent and truthful. I don't put a lot of personal things on Facebook. If you see anything on my page, it's more inspirational. I may comment or something of that nature. But I noticed people live a whole different life on Facebook. And I'm like, oh my God, their life is so perfect. And I remember a time, it's been years ago, I used to compare myself to my classmates on the books. And it really, the downward spiral for me. And I'm like, hold up.
You're like, what is wrong with me?
And I shut my account down and I stopped going on. And I was like, you know what? Don't. I can't. And that was a learning lesson for me. It really was, because we need to be transparent. We need to be, we should be open, and we should be transparent, but that's not always the case. So if you want to share whatever your life is with someone, that's up to you. And if you don't, then you don't. But one thing that you said that really got me was when people have their issues, and they see you one way, and it's like, you have no clue.
You're like, you have no idea.
You have no idea what I've been through in order to get here. And it's not about being here, but people will look at your life and perceive it to be one way, and you don't know what I deal with. You have no clue of what I deal with.
So let me ask you a question as far as wisdom is concerned, actually sharing wisdom. And I understand people have tolerations and you have boundaries. Everybody should have boundaries to a certain extent. I mean, we try to teach our kids that. Don't be putting your booty shaker all over Facebook, or I guess Instagram, or anything for that matter, because it will live with you forever. And that's what I was saying before. It's like, thank goodness that there was no Facebook around when we were younger, because who knows what would be up there. Lord knows some finer moments were left in the past with all the memories, and I have friends who buried the body with me, right? But that being said, I am speaking to the point where it's very profound when you share your story, and I feel really compelled to do so in many instances, even though sometimes it could be raw, because I like behind us it says hope, because in certain instances you do give other people hope that, like we were talking about before, that the struggle is going to be there, yes, but there is light on the other side of the tunnel, right? You're just only going to go through your darkness as long as you keep walking and keep gaining the lessons of your life, right? Then you'll make it to the other side, and regardless of whether or not you make it in one piece, like sometimes we're all beaten a little bit, right? A little bruised around here, whatever.
Climbing that mountain.
Grinding our way out. And I laugh because my friend Paulina is on the thing, and we actually ground our way out with regard to the Camino we went on. But I think in those respects, and when you share your story with others, that whole idea of perfection and becomes more of a potential and possibility. I don't know if that resonates with you.
No, absolutely. I feel like sometimes my friends feel like I share too much.
Oh, okay.
and I say that because I try to help. So if I feel like my story, regardless of how raw it is,
Yeah.
I feel like my story is going to help you,
Yeah.
then I'm going to tell you my story.
You're going into a good therapy. You know, you're going into a good field
Yeah,
for you.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, if I feel like it's going to help you, I'm going to tell you my story because I know people have helped me along the way. I have less struggles because of what someone may have said to me that they went through, and I said, you know what, then maybe I should try it this way. Yeah. And that helped me. That helped me along the way. That helped me in my relationship with God. That helped me in my spirituality. It helped me because people were brave enough to share what they went through, and their transparency helped me. Yeah. So if I can do it for someone else, absolutely. Sometimes my story is like, ooh, that's a bit much. But I feel like it's going to help you, so I'm going to tell you my story.
You know, I think it's sometimes it's, you know, kind of living out loud, and, you know, kind of, I totally believe that, you know, it's when you pay attention to those intuitive hits in life, and like, you know, like kind of like with you, and it's like, you got to come talk to me for an evening with regard to this topic, because I think that many people will benefit from what you have to say, and in that you reach a bigger audience, but at the same time, whoever pops in may be that synchronistic moment of necessity rather than you know just random coincidences in life.
Exactly.
So speaking to your point with regard to the rawness of your story, and how, you know, whether when you share or not, you know, it's not like everybody's at a dinner party and you're like, well, let me tell you about the horrible thing that happened to me, because there are people who are Debbie Downers, and we all know appropriate times, appropriate circumstances. Maybe it's like, you're just like, what did she just say?
I know a few of those.
Oh,
I call them Negative Nancy.
Oh, Negative Nancy. Well, you know, it's so funny because there's like, I think you have your safe spaces where, you know, if you need to be negative, I think that you just people allow you to vent. Yeah. Just go for it. You got your 5 minutes. Go do it. Done.
And I have a couple of my besties and my BFF that I call and we vent to one another. And they'll say something like, I'm so sorry that I'm bombarding you with this. And I'm like, it's okay, because next week or tomorrow
it's going to be my turn. You're like, as long as the karmic cycle and circle of life continues,
there you go.
You know, and to that point, you know, that's why it's so good to have those close friends and the wisdom shared amongst your circle of influence.
Absolutely.
But, you know, to get to that place of influence in your life, you have to be really raw and candid, and share your story with other people, so that they feel that there's a trust built up, and it's when the conversation stops.
You can't be ashamed. Yeah. You can't be ashamed of what you've been through.
Yeah. Well, you know, interestingly enough, though, you know, people, when they pull away and they don't realize that the connection still exists, you know, then the conversation stops, so you don't have that safe space anymore. You're not sure whether or not, you know, it's a place to go to be yourself, right? Exactly. To be authentically yourself. And that's what we really want in this world, is to show us authentically as we possibly can.
And you know what, I think one of the most important things about being a therapist is that trust, and trust is 360. I'm comfortable enough to trust you to share my story, but I'm also comfortable enough to trust you that it won't go any further than
the confidentiality, for sure.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is number one, because who wants to come in and share their story and get to the nitty gritty and be so transparent? And then the world knows about it. Yeah. You know, I
like, this is not an episode of Gossip Girl.
Exactly.
Okay? It's like, keep it here.
So and they have to be comfortable. You have to come into my office, and if I need to come into your space, then that's important. I come to your.
So
space.
Are you talking about like come into my office as a friend? Well, come into my office today. You know?
Yeah. Or if I need to come to you, then that's fine. I've had family members that I know have been going through some things, and I've gone to them. I felt like it was important that I go to them. I didn't want to do this over the phone. Yeah. I went to them.
So kind of like, I see you. I see you. And I want to see
whatever comfortable place they were, whether it was a game room, whether you were in your bedroom, or if you were outside on your patio, wherever it was, I went there. Yeah. Even if it was uncomfortable for me, I went there because I needed it to be comfortable for you in order for us to have a casual conversation. They didn't know I was there in a therapeutic mood.
Well, since you have that background to offer, what would you? I mean, I don't want to have you give professional advice over Facebook Live. That's not necessarily the space. But if you were speaking to someone who's having challenges in a relationship and they didn't really know how to communicate their needs well, what wisdom would you share that would have someone actually, basically start to overcome the blocks there?
You know what? I am a huge believer, and it worked for me. Letter writing.
Letter writing. Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
Works two ways.
That's very good.
You can do it in a sense of writing a letter to just let it all out, and that's the therapeutic.
Do you send this letter or no?
And that's the part. Two parts. You can do it in a therapeutic way, and just vent on paper, and it's between you and God.
Okay.
Whatever you put on that paper.
And God help you. God help you if it gets out.
But if you want to send it to that person, then you send it to that person.
Yeah.
Because that is a way. Sometimes I know with me in my marriage, there were times when I had to write. I've written plenty. Some 5 pages typed.
Did he see them?
Yes.
Oh, he did.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay. And they're still married after 20 plus years, right?
Yes.
So,
and the reason for this is because I'm an emotional person. So what I wanted to convey to you may not come across. It may come across as a weakness because I'm crying in the midst of it.
Yeah.
So I felt like letter writing, you'll know the gutter part of it that I may not be able to say.
Got it.
On paper, and you're gonna read this.
Yeah.
And you're gonna hold on to it.
Yeah.
And if you need to read it over and over and over again in order to break it down and understand it, guess what? It's right there.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah. Well, what if it's really not a kind, loving, or whatever, like it's something that you put out to the universe, you just really don't want the world, and you just needed the vents?
Well, if you just need to vent, and that's what you're doing, then once you vent and you're okay with it, because I don't suggest that you throw it away right away.
Oh, no.
You may need to go back and read it.
Yeah.
You know what? And this, and this. So keep it for a minute.
Okay, I have a question. Should you handwrite it or should you type it? Which one is better you think, for the purpose of communicating?
You know what? Because I've done both.
Okay.
I've done both. And depending on where you are, at the time that you feel the urge to start putting it on paper, depending on where you are. If you're right here at the dinner table and you want to write out something, then you write it out.
So when you're having dinner and somebody makes you really angry, you're like, excuse me, I'm going to get my 2 pages. And I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Although that would be very effective. I think that would get your point across. That it's very important.
But if you depending on your setting, you could be doing homework and something hits you.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what? And you start typing. And then you print it up. Or if you want to just keep it, just for your own sake, then you save it somewhere or whatever.
No, I think that's really...
But I find that to be effective.
So just as a point of reference with regard to the letter writing tool, which I like it, the letter writing tool is very good because I think in 2 respects, like she said, because it gets your feelings onto the page. And when someone reads it, they actually read everything without interrupting you, so that you can communicate well, rather than feeling like you're not being heard. And hopefully the other person will love you or care enough that they'll actually read the letter. Yes. So that versus texting, what is your take on that?
I actually think texting is very impersonal.
Okay.
I guess because
I'm
of the
guilty
era,
of that,
the era that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And it's some things you can text.
Yeah.
And then some things you can't. Some things I feel like a phone call is warranted.
Better than text.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some things that I feel like should not be text. And there are some things that I feel like you should either...
Could you share that with us? Or is that something that you can speak to? Or
what do you mean, like?
Like, what should you text and what should you not text?
A breakup.
Okay. Don't break up over a text. That's pretty safe. Okay. Use that wisdom and take... Actually, I think that maybe for the next generations, maybe that's probably...
Yes, I've heard people say that he broke up with me over a text.
Oh my God. That just sounds like a bad stand-up comedy routine.
Or if you have something that you want to say to someone, you want to tell someone off and you have some chosen words, I feel like that's a cowardly way to say it, because that's what, if you look at it, that's sort of like what cyberbullying is.
That's true.
Because they do it behind a screen.
Right, that's true.
Of something that they can't say in your face.
That's true.
So I think it's a cowardly way of handling a situation.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. You know, and it may, perhaps maybe if you sit down to actually write a letter, you know, maybe your thought processes won't be shortened. Exactly. And send. You know, you maybe think twice before you send.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I think that's actually really great advice, because a lot of people do the short. You know, in fact, today I got some texts, and you know, I read into the intonation of the text that might not be what the person is saying.
Yeah.
It might not be, but because I'm feeling raw and vulnerable, maybe that's what I'm taking apart.
Absolutely.
That's very. I need to take that.
That's another thing that you said it. You could say wow, and your wow and my wow, depending on how I'm feeling.
Capital wow, like WOW.
Yeah, but it could be an excitement wow, like wow. And you could take it as wow, really?
Yeah, wow.
You know?
Because you're being like, you know, that.
Exactly.
You're
depending on the mind frame that you're in at the time. So.
And then you got to send like 10 million texts back complaining and apologizing. And then we know, it's very interesting, we were talking about forgiveness. And I think that's really huge what you said before on forgiveness prior to actually coming on live, you know, as to what you guys were talking about. And go ahead and share that too, because I think that's really incredible wisdom to share with many people.
Sure. We had a sexual offender panel today in my class. And one of the questions was how do you forgive? So forgiveness is, and both you and I remember that it was Maya. You know, forgiveness is for you. It's not for the person. So both of these men had to go through after playing the victim card because they felt victimized of being accused or something that they did or did not do. Whatever the story is, it doesn't matter. But they had to forgive that person, and they also had to forgive themselves.
Wow.
Because I had to forgive myself for the act or the part that I did have on it, so that I can move on. And that's what a lot of times we have to go through life and forgive. I may have done or said something to someone, and I have to forgive myself, because I may not ever see that person ever again in order to say I'm sorry to them, but I have to forgive me in order to move on beyond that.
I love that, because when you're actually, you know, contemplating walking in wisdom, you know the beautiful sages that have gone before, you know, it's that release of that weight on your soul, really.
Yeah.
When you actually, you know, decide to say I'm sorry, and that empowers other people to say, you know, I'm really sorry too. So it becomes a very mutual healing that can begin.
Yes.
Whether they say it or not, the healing begins for you. And that's what I think that you were speaking to specifically, which I think is amazing. You know, at the beginning of the interview, I asked you what your intention was for this evening, and you picked number 3, which, you know, it's very interesting because threes are my numbers lately. I'm kind of going around the whole trifecta, the Trinity, you know, the 3, 3,
That's
3.
why I picked 3.
That's why you picked 3. Okay, well, you can say it in your own words. I don't want to take your answer away. That was just why I resonated with the 3. Yeah.
It was just with 3 being 3 is the if I'm not and I hope I don't get this right. If I do, Apostle, forgive me. If I'm not mistaken, 3 is the number of completion.
Ah, see, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, spiritual meaning.
Spiritual. Okay.
Of completion. So I could sort of like put this and check this off of my bucket list and be content with it.
Oh, there you go.
Interview. This
interview me.
Yes.
Wow, that's such a huge
so
compliment.
I can put it on my list. I can check it off, and I can be complete and content with it.
That's beautiful.
Because this is something Meg asked me this 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And I was in awe. I really was in awe. I was not expecting. I was interviewing her.
I know she was interviewing me. And it was curious,
Which was a phenomenal interview, by the way. And
we were having a lot of fun. I think that was why it was so
almost
phenomenal.
2 hours.
Yeah, it was. It was like, I think it was like maybe for 4. And I didn't even expect to even speak to you. I thought your partner was the one who was coming in. So it was like even more of a happy surprise.
Exactly.
Happy
surprise.
But
and I spoke with my my class partner, and last night about it.
Oh,
because
yes.
I wrote it up and I sent it to her.
Oh.
She was like, oh.
We had fun.
Yes.
We
She
had
was
fun.
like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed
We
this.
had fun.
And she said, that was supposed to be me. And
Oh,
then she said, no, you know what? It was purpose for it to be you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the reason for me picking the number 3.
That's great.
And like I said,
Since I, I just want to share with everybody as well that, because I wrote the Magical Guide to Bliss to basically help me on my journey, because I knew I had to make some big changes.
Which is amazing.
And which was amazing because I was just like, I'm probably the most terrified person you'll ever meet in your life, and you'll not think that because I'm like doing things like this, but it's despite in the face of the fear that I do things.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and then I crumble into a corner and cry for like an hour. So I'm just being honest. That is my truth. But it's that every time I do it, I become more faithful. I think it's maybe faithful to my journey. I think that, and since it's a magical guide to bliss, I'm also faithful to the task that I think I channel, because I think purpose is important and calling is important, and then when you pay attention to all of that, I mean, then it's kind of hard to say no. And we've read biblically a lot of people who they're like regular normal people like you and me and you and me and all of you and me. We're all like very normal, ordinary people who just start paying attention to the whispers of the universe, of God, whatever you want to call it, and then doing the next thing that they feel is inspired action from there, and then it becomes something really truly beautiful. And I think many people who are artists in different capacities listen to that little voice inside. I think that many people who are healers, doctors, listen to that little voice inside. I think people who come to the fore with a justice mentality listen to that little voice inside, and people who are going to be therapists, listen to that little voice inside. And I think when you start paying attention to that, whatever follows next is what was supposed to happen, right? Not what you actually thought, because you kind of embrace that uncertainty. So you picked number 3, and interestingly enough, number 3 corresponds with the first page of my book, The Magical Guide to Bliss. So what I have you do, if you feel comfortable doing it, is read it and share it with the audience as to your intention was 3 was completion, getting completion, closure off your bucket list, everything that you said, and this is the message that or insight that comports with your intention.
So do I read the?
You read the whole thing if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah,
so.
I'm fine. So it's January 1. Pursue simplicity, clarity, and authenticity today and every day. Whether we want them or not, the new year will bring new challenges. Whether we seize them or not, the new year will bring new opportunities. Wow. Michael Josephson. So to move forward in the new year, repeat the following mantra. Simplicity, clarity, and authenticity.
There you go.
Eliminating the clutter and clarifying what is important in your life are crucial tasks to successfully making a new start. Review the past year and be completely honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what has worked for me? What behavior do I need to change? How can I make informed choices that elevate rather than depress my spirit? I like that. Instead of playing an actor's role in which you are subject to the dictates of an all-powerful director, otherwise known as fate or God, this year, resolve to become the screenwriter and tell your story the way you chose to tell it. Wow. Become the change you want to see in your world. Challenges will inevitably arise, but as you pursue simplicity, clarity, and authenticity, so will opportunities. Once you release old resentments, learn from past mistakes, and embrace future success, you will be ready to enter a new phase. Stand in gratitude for the blessings you have already received and for those still on the way. I love that. In a state of appreciation, you are open to receive the grace, the strength, and the favor that empower you to realize your dreams and fulfill your life's purpose. Each new year, as the picture becomes clearer, simpler, and more authentic, you will begin to seize every opportunity that enriches your life's purpose. May the magical guide to bliss light the road on your journey to fulfillment and shower you with the blessings along the way. Wow.
So it's,
I love that.
yeah, so, it's interesting that you've taken us back to the beginning of the year as we conclude the third month of the year, which is 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third. So we've concluded the first 3 months of the year this week. And as we, gear up to move forward into our lives, a reminder is pursue simplicity, clarity, and authenticity, especially as you moved into the month where it transformed dreams into reality, because then you truly will have a grasp on that which is important and a priority to you, so that you will find the distractions of that no longer serves you, push that away to be open to the opportunities, because they will come your way. Yes. Just like I gave you this opportunity and you gave me the opportunity to be with you tonight here. Yes. So with that, my friends, I do believe that for me, one of the greatest gifts I can give at this point to whoever needs it has been writing this book. And certainly it was one of the greatest gifts that I gave myself, because I have been following my own channeled wisdom as it leads me on the next page to the next page to the next page, so that maybe the uncertainty will become a little bit more simpler and clearer as I continue on, so I'm not so scared anymore. And that little girl inside, that little girl we try to protect, ferociously at times, and you protecting your daughter too, remember, that is also a channel of the trigger that we do face for our own inner self, to take care of our children, especially our babies, 14 years old, that we turn to that point and we say, like you said at the beginning, thank you. Like that beautiful thank you and gratitude for the opportunities as they arise, and for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, because this was so much fun. And that's always been my intention when I do these manifestings with Meg, to have a really good time and somehow heal a little part in me that needs the healing for that day. So I want to say thank you to you for giving me your time, and also giving the Facebook world your time, because I think that is truly a gift when people do see others and share their vulnerability and their rawness there. So I do thank you very much. I do say this as well, if you always want to help manifesting your dreams and live the life of your dreams, I certainly am available as a coach. Soon to be available as a therapist, marriage and family therapist, is my friend Yashica here. Yes. She's going to be amazing. She already is. So I'm excited to see her graduate. And when she does, she'll send me a picture so I can share them with all of you. Absolutely. So we can all celebrate her huge accomplishment. I'd like to thank you again for bringing your magic, and you're helping to inspire and elevate the world in your own beautiful way. I do like to give the final word to my guests, so take the floor, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. Simply.
Again, thank you, Meg. I
welcome.
appreciate this. I really do. Didn't know what to expect. That was part of allowing the piece to come about. Didn't know what to expect, but she has been a gracious hostess, as well as a, how should I say? I guess, not only for coming into your home, but hostess as well as on your live, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
It made me feel comfortable, and I appreciate that.
Amazing.
It's important. One thing that I want to leave is just know that it gets greater later.
I like that. It's beautiful. It gets greater later. That's amazing. For anyone who's dealing with hopelessness right now, that's something that you were speaking to me. I think that's a huge point that you should share with everyone, because I think that, it seems like for at least our community down here, even in the Parkland community, they lost 2 to suicide in the last week. And even that's touched my family, my son's very good friend. And the amazing thing is when someone can say, I see you, and then it's greater later. I think that's amazing. I think
because
it's amazing.
we tend to, especially with everything that's going on, we tend to feel invisible at times.
Oh, that's so
and
true.
We're not invisible.
Yeah, that's so true.
We're not invisible. If you, whatever your higher source is, and mine is God, and Meg and I have had that conversation. He hears you. He sees you. And trust me, if you could just move past whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, wake up tomorrow, fresh start, new day, and just go about it. Give it all your best. If you believe in him, pray to him and take it to him, and just make it a good thing. And just know, trust me when I can tell you, it really does get greater later.
That's really important. That's really, really important to remember. And also, you know, start paying attention if you feel like you can reach out to somebody.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure people are waiting with open arms.
Yes.
That's one of the most beautiful things that you can do is give somebody your time.
Even if it's a hello or a smile in the morning. I realized that walking on the water.
Yeah?
I used to go up to the water, and I realized that strangers just saying good morning.
I love saying
good morning.
Yeah, I love
They
that.
didn't expect it. Or hello.
That's
they
amazing.
didn't expect
Simplicity,
it.
right?
Yes, and it allows people to know that, oh, someone saw me.
I know.
I'm not invisible. I'm not just here.
Yeah.
Hello.
That's
good
awesome.
morning.
So tomorrow morning or this evening, maybe you could reach out to someone and say, good evening, buonasera, as we Italians say. But, you know, just try to connect, because like a lot I've experienced is that we are really all in this together, and we're all connected in some way. So if there's one little way that you can reach out, hug, smile, you know, etc., then do it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it will be greater later.
It will be.
I like that. So remember, you're all here as deliberate creators of your life. Let your soul be guided by your dreams. Certainly pay attention to them. Let us all together raise the vibrations, the positive vibrations on this planet, so that we all can live our bliss. Enjoy your magic and miracles. This certainly was a magical, miraculous night for me.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Thank
again.
you.
Remember to shine your beautiful lights. And if you can't shine your light, then find someone who looks bright enough to you to just be, you know, attracted to that, and just, you know, share, hug, and smile, and then say, I need to be listened to or heard, because I think that when you reach out, then people will actually embrace you. So
You'd be surprised.
manifest the most beautiful life you can imagine, my friends, on this beautiful, beautiful, magical life, and this, you know, a time to, you know, try to choose happy, then you will actually see it follow. So thank you. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Yashica, again. And this is episode 17 of the Magical Guide to Bliss with Manifesting with Meg and Yasica Bailey, who's our next up-and-coming family and marriage therapist. And I will put all of her information on the feed subsequent to this. I'm going to send a lot of love because I need a lot of love. So let's share this. Let's connect there.
Yes.
And let's just do our thing in this world. So thank you all so very much. All right. Good night.
Good night.